What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the pod, whatever you want to call it, interview. I wanted to have my boy Hunter on today because, I've seen some stuff on his Twitter feed. He's been on pretty wild adventure last few months, moving to New York from San Diego, taking that leap of faith, and wanted to hear more about his story. So, Hunter, glad to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me, Presley. I appreciate it. I'm pretty stoked. New York's a crazy place, so it's cool you brought that up. But being out here, it's so different than San Diego. It's such an insane energy. You meet people every single day that are doing crazy things, and it's just insane who you can bump into on the street. Even like the first day I was out here, I ran into the comedian Andrew Schultz. He's just walking down the street with his dog. It's like I was just mind blown. Like literally the first day out here, and you're like walking into people that you watch on TV or see on social media or see on Netflix. It's crazy.
Yeah, and New York too, everyone's in a hurry, the sense of urgency. I'm from Connecticut myself, so I've kind of grown up in that area. Like, hey, I'm walking here. People are in a rush. They're moving fast. You go to any part of the country, you just notice it's like dramatically slower. So it's probably the opposite from you, coming from San Diego. So I want to talk about that with you a little bit. Like, I know you mentioned you literally just sold all your stuff. You had your bike and just the bare essentials. Like, I want to hear about that experience and what it was like, really kind of burning the boats and just going all in, moving to NYC.
Yeah. So I kind of discussed with a big YouTuber to move out to New York in August. And then once that was locked in, I pretty much had known the middle of August that I was going to move to New York the first week of October. So between the middle of August and October, I pretty much just sold everything I had. I sold my car. I sold anything of value that I could have as much cash as possible for this move, knowing that once I got to New York, I was probably going to stay there for a minute. And even now, like I have a 9-month lease till the end of July. So like I'm for sure staying here through July and have no plans on leaving until maybe the weather gets super brutal. But yeah, burning the ships was really like one of the greatest feelings. Honestly, I haven't really done. I've had my car for years. It's the first time I've never had a car. I pretty much just got rid of every single thing. I sold every bicycle I didn't need. I sold a dirt bike. I sold a car. I can't remember all the other things I sold. I went crazy on OfferUp. I literally just felt like some of these Twitter hustler accounts. I literally just posted every single thing I possibly could try to sell. And I think by the time I left, there was only like 3 or 4 things unsold. And I sold things just every day for 6 weeks. And it felt good. Like it felt really real once I sold my car. I sold that 4 days before I moved. And once I sold my car, I got that I got this fat stack of cash in hundreds. I was like, damn, like put all these miles on a car, you spend all this money on a car, and then you sell it for way less than you purchased it for. But then it's like, it's gone. And I was like, that's the end of it. Like that felt like the end of like being connected to anything. Yeah, you still have like your family connections, but like materialistically, like I really got rid of everything except for the bare essentials, camera, bike, everything else, like clothes wise. And then once I got to New York, just bought everything I needed for my apartment.
Yeah, it's definitely a big challenge because when you're thinking about it, I bet you were like, oh, like I'm kind of ready, right? But then when you actually go and you're physically selling the stuff and you're like on the plane, it's a different feeling.
Oh, I was nervous. This whole thing's made me nervous. But before I moved out here, I was really nervous. There's a lot of fear around, is this the right decision? Like I'm selling everything. Like there's no turning back. And also knowing that like New York's expensive. Like it's way more expensive, I think, than San Diego. People think San Diego is expensive. For the quality of life, San Diego is very cheap. Like I'm paying $1,900 a month for rent right now. And when I lived in San Diego, I got hooked up, but I was paying like $1,000 a month and living a block from the beach. And like you can find some really good steals in San Diego for like the quality of like being near the beach, low rent, but there's no beach, low rent in New York here. It makes you hungry though. It makes you want to work, and you can feel the hustle here. I mean, it's a hustle city. It's a crazy city, and there's something going on every single night. I mean, the place doesn't sleep. It feels like you go outside at 2 a.m. There's something going on.
I've read a little bit more about your story through your threads and your Twitter, and talking about like your work with the NFL and how you really get started with videography and just your love of the camera. So I think this would be really cool for like a lot of young guys, because I know a lot of people that just love being around a camera, whether that be filming YouTube videos or videography or editing, basically anything in that creative field, but they don't really know how to monetize their talent or kind of get their name out there. So I want to hear about how you actually got started working with the NFL and developed a name for yourself.
Yeah, so I really started. My mom has photos of me with a camera when I'm like 4 years old, but I didn't start doing video till I was 8, and then I just started making whatever I wanted to and putting it on YouTube, and then it started to compound snowball. I had a channel that had a couple million views by the time I was 14. YouTube was doing AdSense; it would send me $100 checks. That was the threshold you needed to make $100 minimum. So I started making some money off YouTube when I was a kid, and then I hit a certain point where I started to like really hate those videos. So because I grew up and I deleted that whole channel. But I really just started putting a lot of focus into like learning editing, learning color grading, like learning certain things in the editing softwares. And by doing that, what I started doing is making tutorials in the softwares as I was learning things. Then I would turn around and like reteach that to YouTube, and then I would learn it better. So that would then snowball, and some of those accounts got a lot of views on YouTube at the time. I was mostly like teaching people how to edit GoPro footage, because that was like a lot of people were buying GoPros and they didn't know how to like color grade it or how to import it into whatever software. So I would teach people how to do that. And then in high school, I got really big into Vine. Well, before, I think it was like middle school, high school, I was really big into Vine and posting drone footage. And I got really big into flying drones. Like, I love flying drones. All my like biggest videos have all been drone related. And when I went to college, I just kept working and filming parties and fraternity parties and doing drone footage for real estate companies. I did some drone footage for like architectural school. Pretty much anything, I would reach out to people, but a lot of people would come to me because I was posting a lot about flying drones, and then they'd refer to someone else. And then in college, I was like networking in this creator group, and I highly recommend looking into finding like creator Facebook groups. If you go to college, there's some on college campuses. There's some that like cover the whole college. I think it was like a Campus Lens Facebook. They would post jobs around the U.S. at colleges, and you could respond back and pick up a job and then go film it, and then you'd network. And my boss at the NFL who hired me, we connected through a Facebook group, and then we became friends and follow each other on social media. And then he actually reached out to me to apply for the NFL. And at the time, I was backpacking. I was backpacking in Asia. I think it was like the last week of my trip, and I was getting ready to come home. And I was traveling with all my camera gear, filming everything. Just like I wanted to go see these places that I'd seen on social media and knew they were super cheap. And then from there, he said, like, do you want to apply to work for the NFL? And I was like, yeah, like, this is crazy. So I went through like a very interesting application process. They sent me a Dropbox folder, and I had a time limit. And I think I had 1 hour or 2 hours from the time I downloaded this whole folder to return a finished video. And it was a time test, but then they gave you a bunch of footage. So it was really difficult to figure out, like, how do I make something that's good very fast? And once it was downloaded, they could see when it was downloaded, and they said it needs to be returned by this time. Then once you finish that video, if they like it, they send you another folder, and I think it was 30 minutes or an hour. And they're seeing how fast you can operate under stress to create something that would be used as a social asset. And once I passed that, I ended up getting hired. And then I had just moved, pretty much the same thing. I moved I was home in San Diego for a month. And then I moved to Los Angeles, and was in Los Angeles, I think, for like close to a year and a half. Yeah. And then I started working for the NFL a week after I moved to LA, and worked there for 10 months on a contract.
Wow, that's really cool. I had no idea about the timed footage thing. That's super interesting. Like, I know, like, creators, especially some of them are like OCD perfectionists. I have a friend that does YouTube videos, and I'll talk to him, and he'll show me some like footage, and I'll be like, dude, this looks great. He's like, no, this, it all needs to go away. This is trash. Like, I need to fix the audio here. And to like have the intuition and also like the creativity to create something so quickly, and just like ignore like all the kind of little things, that takes some talent. So super cool to hear
the biggest thing you'll learn in like the high quantity output environments is that you can't be a perfectionist, and you have to like get over that really quick. So I grow like when I was growing up making things, I always spent a lot of time like trying to perfect it. And even like hearing what Casey Neistat says and some of the things he like mentions to me, he's like, perfectionism is like a disease. Like, you can't worry about perfectionism when you're making videos. Like you just have to make something that's quality in the story or whatever you're trying to showcase. But there's always going to be small errors if you're moving to like produce something quicker and put it out to the world. But those errors make the video real. They make it so that there's actually a connection. Like, oh, there's a mistake right there. Like you see the mistake and you acknowledge it, but you know, like that keeps a person real versus trying to continuously make things that are perfect. Even
Yeah,
movies, like you can find small little things in movies that might have been like a little mistake, but they decided to leave it in there.
that's a really cool take. I like that way of putting it too, because like now more than ever, it's like I think the over edited videos sometimes people, it's almost a point of diminishing returns, like especially with the vlog style footage. Like they're watching the vlog because they want to know more about you and your experiences. And I think there's a point where if you over edit the videos, it just becomes like, okay, why am I even watching this if he's trying to doctor and change all these different things? And I know you're a big vlog guy too. I've seen some of your videos on the skateboard and all that really cool stuff. So, what's your take on vlogging and how creators can use that?
Yeah, I used to like think it was kind of goofy, but at the end of the day, it's not, in my opinion. Like it's a cool way to showcase what you're doing if you want to share what you're doing, if you can provide value or entertainment. And with YouTube, like if someone watches a video, great. If they don't, but like I kind of just have fun with it. And like if you're making something that's short form, it's going to be different than long form. And I think there's some really great vloggers that are crushing it. I follow Nick Bear. He kind of vlogs his training, his business, and how like behind the scenes of what he's eating to train for 100-mile run. And he makes these cinematic videos, and then he makes vlog videos, and he tests all the different types of content. And I think for the fitness space specifically, like vlogging is a great way for them to build an audience. If you're in a gym and you're doing something different than other people, you don't need to do overproduced. You can literally underproduce. You can film the whole thing with an iPhone sideways like this, as long as you're showing what you're doing, and then put it on YouTube, and people will find it interesting if you're sharing some sort of value. And the same way people will sit and spend a bunch of time writing a blog. A vlog is really just spending your time outside or in the world, just filming it with a camera and showcasing it on the internet. And people really can build a connection to you as a person when it's not overproduced, when you're just sharing what you're doing, how you're living, any form of value. And I do think it's tougher nowadays, though, like to showcase yourself and your life through a vlog and keep it interesting. So like if you're doing interesting things, then people will want to watch it. But if you're doing the same thing as everyone else, I think less people will want to watch it.
100%. Growing up, like, did you ever feel like uncomfortable, like being on camera and talking or vlogging? Or like, I think a big obstacle that people face with vlogging or just documenting their story is, maybe they're out of college or something like that, or they're walking in a busy city and they want to pull out the camera and just start talking at the camera, but they're like, oh, like people are going to judge me, or this is stupid. Like I feel weird doing this. Did you experience that block? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think I'm like starting to get better at it. Like even sometimes being around Casey and watching him and being in public, like you just gotta not worry about like a random person doesn't matter. They have no clue who you are. And even if people know who you are, like they should support what you're doing. So the first time I ever met Casey, and I was like going surfing with him in LA, and I pulled out a GoPro to like film us, and he like grabbed my arm and he put it up, and he's like, put the camera up here. Like you need to put it above your face and look up to. Like no one wants to see your chin. No one wants to see under your nose. And that's like, I think where people, like anyone can walk down the street and film their face like right here. But then when you go up here and like bring the attention to yourself and put the camera high up, you're going to get a better angle. And you're also going to, it's going to be nicer footage. It's going to show more around you. But I think the uncomfortable aspect is people don't like to have other people's eyes on them. And if you don't mind having eyes on you and you have something to say, then you'll be great at filming yourself. And it's just kind of getting over that mental barrier, which probably comes with a lot of time of practicing. But even in college, like I found it really easy to public speak and talk to people and present to, I don't know, I think I presented in front of the most like 150, 200 people at once, just standing up on a stage talking. So like, if you don't have that concern, then you'll have a way easier time talking to a camera, especially like right now. Like this is easy because it's just us two, but if you had to do this in front of 500 people, would it be difficult, or could you do it? And you kind of just get over the mental block, like we're having a conversation together.
So one thing I was thinking about too, and you talking about like talking in front of 500 people, and people not wanting a ton of eyes on them is this idea of when you're talking to, you're filming a video or you're talking to a large group of people, to imagine more as like conversational than a presentation. And this is something I think a lot of people can do better. And I'm working on myself right now because I think when people see the camera go on, they think they need to put on some kind of performance, or like maybe they're not aware of that, but it's like a subconscious thing where they kind of change their tonality, or they feel like they need to change a bunch of stuff because now they're on camera. So for you, like, do you ever feel that way, or you just feel like naturally you've been so used to being on camera that, hey, I'm just going to be myself and the camera's on while I'm doing this thing?
Yeah, I that's a good question. I think it depends because like when you watch a movie, they're acting, so they're a different person. And if you're an entertainer, you might have to act. And if you have value and you want to share your value, you shouldn't act sharing your value. Or maybe you can, but like if you have a good amount of information about marketing or video, why would you want to act about that? Like just be yourself and share what you know and what you've learned. But if you're an entertainer, you kind of do have to act a bit. Or if you're putting on a show to get attention, you might have to act a little bit to make that hook or to get eyes. And I think like a good example, because everyone probably recognizes the name, is Nelk. I believe Nelk, and I haven't met him. I believe Nelk that they're great actors, and who knows how they are in real life compared to when they're filming something. But if you're filming a prank, in a way you want to act and have a personality. But when the camera's off, do you need to have that same personality with your friends, your manager, your family? Who knows? But what they do when the camera is on is they grab attention and they get eyes, and they've built themselves into a massive platform. They built a massive platform because they're good at getting attention. And I've been saying to a lot of people recently, attention, eyes is the greatest way to monetize, because the more eyes and attention you get, the easier it is to sell your service or to monetize off YouTube or to create a brand or to sell a product, because attention is currency today.
Yeah, super well said. Couldn't have articulated better. What do you think about the prank thing? Is funny because I keep referring to, I have a friend that does like exactly kind of what we're talking about with the YouTube skits and like getting on camera and really like playing these very interesting characters. What's your take on, because we've seen like a lot of people like, like Balin Levine and like Blake Backer, I'm sure you're familiar with them, and just like this kind of new era of, attention seekers. Like, what's your take on the space, and like, what do you think these guys could do to either monetize their platform better, or like kind of improve like what they're doing? Because clearly you have experience in that video space and you know what works and what doesn't. Do you think it's like a long-term trend we're seeing of like this style of content?
Depends. If like I see with TikTok like a lot of the man on the street stuff, and I always wonder like, how are you monetizing that? How much time are you spending? Are you gaining a massive audience and you're selling through affiliate links? Or are you gaining a massive audience and then selling a service? Or are you doing it for fun and you don't care and you have an audience now? But then the other angle is like when YouTube was blowing up, prank videos were everywhere because they would get a shit ton of views and they had a low CPM, but you could still make money off of it. If you got 50 million views on your channel a month and you made a few bucks per 1,000 views, it was a fun job because now you're outside filming a couple videos a week, making thousands of dollars a month. So, I mean, I don't know exactly how much TikTok you could make off of going viral from pranks or men on the street. I know YouTube has a little bit better if you're getting a lot more views. But in my perspective, like that's not what I'm doing. Like, that's not my interest. And I think what anyone wants to do, like go do it. And whatever you're interested in filming or creating, just go do it. And don't really let other people get in between you and your ideas, because that's when you're going to like regret not doing what you wanted to do. And if you end up like conforming to a style that isn't your style, you probably won't enjoy making those videos. And now it's going to feel like a job versus just being a creator and having fun. And if you look at most creators, like the best creators are doing what they love to do and they're just having a fun time doing it. And by doing that, they ended up hitting the algorithm, building an audience, blowing up, people enjoyed it. Now they have tons of eyes, or they're really good at one singular niche, or they have an extreme amount of value in whatever they put out into the world, and people recognize that.
Love it. That's the ironic part about the whole video making process and just being a creative in general. When you try to optimize sometimes and you're looking for trends to hop on and you're trying to do the best thing that you think people are going to like the most, a lot of times it reeks of inauthenticity. And, you're always going to be known as kind of the off-brand or Walmart version of someone else if you copy them to a T. versus the guy who maybe leans into his own personal style that gets less traction initially, but he knows that what he's doing is funny and he just likes doing it. He's going to have a lot better time in the long run. And I wanted to segue into talking about like you with the drone footage, because I know you said you were super passionate about that. And I think I remember reading that you had one video on your YouTube from COVID. It was like a drone shot of a skate park. Kind of talk about that and how that all unfolded. I'm super
Yeah,
curious.
and I'm gonna just say right now, Casey just texted me, we're building something. I have like max maybe 10 minutes, so
Okay, cool.
we'll do 10 more minutes of this.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so 1 week I've been flying drones since I was 16, I think actually 15. I'm 26 now, so 11 years. And during COVID, so I was working for the NFL and my contract ended, and 7 days later, I ended up filming like the biggest video of my life. Like I didn't really know what I was going to do after the NFL. I had a little bit of freelance work. And so during COVID, it's on my Twitter pinned. The city of LA decided to fill the Venice skate park with sand. And I had went over there the night before because a friend was like, hey, like I heard they might fill the skate park. So I went over there the night before and they had already roped it off and they had started shoveling sand in, and there were shovels and wheelbarrows. So I was like, okay, I told myself like I'm going to wake up at 5:36 the next morning, bike over there, try and document whatever's happening. And I went over there and I was like myself and maybe two other people and a tractor driver, and just took the drone up, took a bunch of photos, ended up getting like 45, 50 minutes of footage, and went home and I posted an Instagram photo of the skate park, an overhead view of it filled with sand, and it instantly started taking off. Like I think it had like 500 likes in 15 minutes. I was like, wow, like this is the most engagement I've ever gotten on a photo. And my buddy's like, yo, do you have footage of this? Like, you need to get this edited ASAP and share it. And I was like, yeah, I have like 45 minutes of footage. And so I started posting more of the photos, and the photos were taking off everywhere. I was like, shit, like this is insane. I've never experienced anything like this. The photos are going viral. So I was like, okay, I went home, made that video. And I always tell people it's so funny, the biggest video I've ever made, and it was retweeted by President Trump. It was retweeted by hundreds of people that were massive. I made it in 15 minutes. Like I literally fucking sat down and I made an entire video in 15 minutes. And I just tried to bring together from the 45 minutes my favorite clips. I had some audio I recorded of the tractor. I put it all together so that I would like there was no music. It was just bare bones, visuals, a nice color grade, bunch of different shots, and some raw audio. And I didn't even post the video until a full 24 hours after it had happened. So I was technically late on posting the footage. Just the photos were out there. So when I posted the video, it instantly started taking off, and I was like, couldn't believe it. And it was getting shared all over Instagram. It was getting reposted. I think it had like 500 reposts the first day on Instagram. And then on Twitter, I think it racked up like 1 million views in the first couple hours. It's like, damn, like, this is crazy. Like I've never experienced anything like this. And for like 7 days, it went viral. And then I started waking up every morning to people trying to license it, to agencies trying to buy it, to the news trying to get it. Like I think on like day 2 or 3 became a political left versus right talking point. So like everyone was chiming in like this is communist, or like this is a waste of taxes, or this is the right thing to do, or let kids go skateboarding and be in the sun. And then CNN, Barstool, Vice, Fox News, a bunch of people around the world all started licensing it, and it went straight to TV. And I remember like people were sending me videos like they're seeing it on CNN in Europe, like they're seeing it on Fox News, they were seeing it in Japan. People were texting me, messaging me on Instagram like, hey, like I just saw your footage in whatever country, like it's in Australia. And I was just getting hundreds of messages like talking about how crazy it was. And then I had it a non-exclusive deal licensed with an agency, so they were selling it for me. And I was getting PayPals from this agency every day, and I was mind blown. I was like, holy shit, like people are paying for this. And it ended up like being one of those crazy moments that opened up a bunch of opportunities and doors, just because of like the people that followed me on Twitter and I connected with. And it did the best on Twitter of any platform. And I mean, some massive accounts followed me and still do. And it's like one video, and I tell people like the social lottery, like one video could really blow up and change your life or open doors, or if like you could use it to change your life if you apply what you're learning from it, or meeting people, or using those like meeting connections and reaching out to those connections. That was kind of a long rant. So if you have any questions, I'll give you every detail I can.
No, I wanted to let you spill the details on that. That's super cool that you had like, it's just crazy too how one message can just be can just spread like wildfire. Like you said, the political parties were using it as leverage against each other and trying to like create all the symbolism, and then you had people showcasing on the news. That's so cool, man. That's so cool. Would you say that's like one of the more rewarding aspects, like being in the creative space, is just like when you post a piece of work and then just like seeing it all over the place and thinking, wow, like I made
Yeah.
this. You that's the best part.
I joked around and said like to a bunch of like friends, I was like, damn, like it took 15 years to finally blow up, like to finally get eyes on something on like a high level. Like it doesn't happen 1 hour, 1 day. Like if it happens in 1 day, like you might quit after it happens in 1 day. But like to blow up that big and know like how much work and hard work was behind it and how many hours I spent flying drones, how many hours I spent editing. And it's like the ups and downs that come with being a creator and artist, and then having something so massive and having so many eyes see it. It's like, it feels good and overwhelming. Like I remember that 7-day week, I think I slept like 2 to 3 hours a night. I was just fueled off adrenaline because every second I checked my email, there was a new person like trying to license it or sending me a message about it or sending me a tweet like, yo, this person just put it in their podcast. It's like Rogan and Tony Hawk are like sitting there talking about this clip back and forth. Like, did you see the skate park video? Like Tony Hawk's like, yeah, it's ridiculous, but I guess like the skaters will dig it out or blah, blah, blah. And like Ben Shapiro, like there was insane people who were seeing it, taking it and talking about it. And you're like, damn, like I was just a kid who loved cameras. Like I was just a kid who loved filming things and posting on the internet. Like I really just do this for fun. And like it turned into like a career, a passion, like things I love. And it's funny because like the first YouTube channel I ever made was called Videos for Fun 1000. And that was the one I clipped all the videos on. But that was like the whole premise of like making videos was videos for fun. Like I always just sat down, filmed something, went outside, edited, whatever. Like you just would go outside with a camera and try and document something, film it, put it on the internet, and then move on to the next thing. And it's just been a consistency game. And it's to me, it probably does have like a dopamine effect because like you are trying to play this like lottery game in your head of, can you create something that reaches people, or can you create something that benefits or impacts people, or can you create something that makes money? Because at the end of the day too, like there's different ways that you can monetize video. You can use it for sales. Like you can use it in so many different ways. You can use it to sell a product. You can use it for ads, and it's fun. Like it's no different than writing, but now you have a million different ways you can use a camera and edit.
Yeah, super, super well articulated. And this reminds me of, a lot of up and coming guys that are just they have a camera in their hands, right? But they just get frustrated because they're putting out stuff they love like day after day, and they're focused on the external. They want to blow up, they want to go viral. But like you said, you were just videos for fun was your first channel. You're going in this with, you know what? I like making videos, so fuck it. I'm going to try to post and make this happen. Versus the guy that's always trying to look for that external thing, when in reality it's kind of like a byproduct of having a good time and documenting stuff you love. Yeah. So I want to wrap up here because I know you said, you got
one last thing to add. And I've been thinking about this a lot more lately, but comparison is the thief of joy. And if you can't find joy in like making things on your own and you're comparing yourself to everyone else and looking at everyone else's numbers, you're never going to really enjoy the process of making things, because you're always going to be comparing yourself to other people who might have already blown up or spent more time or have a different niche. And it's really like spending your time making things that you enjoy and consistently doing that. And I don't see how the world won't reward your consistency.
Love it. One last piece of advice for somebody trying to get into videography. You're already in it, but they really just want to get their name out. I know you mentioned the Facebook groups, but any other suggestions for that kid just looking to
I would say like start using Twitter and engaging with people that you find interesting in whatever niche you like. Or if it's video, find video accounts. The one thing I would say is go on YouTube, watch creators you like, follow them on Twitter. Also like get better, get your skills better, like figure out like, how can I make this video more interesting? And when you make a video, send it to a friend and say, hey, give me your honest opinion on this video. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I did that today. I sent a video to my buddy. He's like, maybe add some more visuals in the video to make it a little bit more interesting or engaging. And don't be afraid to ask people what they think, but then don't be offended on what they tell you. And if they say, hey, this video sucked, okay, take it with a grain of salt. If 5 people say it sucked, it probably sucked. If 1 person said it sucked and 10 people said it was great, it was probably good and you have 1 hater. So I would say like ask for feedback, spend a lot of time, like the story is more important than the editing. Nowadays, like people are going underproduced. If you can tell a good story, it's probably going to do better than something that has no story over edited. So time in the game is better than time out of the game. And also consuming other people's content and finding things that you find interesting and like is going to help you. But remember, you don't have to copy. But if you see a good idea and you think you can make it better, take that idea and now make it better as your own idea. And it's just going to take time and repetition. Everything takes reps, and it's like going to the gym, making videos like going to the gym. Like the more times you go, the more fit you're going to get. Everything is a compound game, and you really just got to put time into what you enjoy.
Yeah. Solid all around timeless advice from Hunter Weiss. You heard it. You heard the man. Where can people find you on Twitter? It's at Hunter Weiss, right?
Yeah, at Hunter_Weiss on every platform. I think when I was 12 years old, I grabbed the same URL for some reason. It's worked out. So yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
It was a pleasure having you on, man. I'm super excited to see what's next for your videos and, all your future work with people when it comes to, camera work. So
I've been firing DMs left and right to do some short form for some big people. I'm just waiting, trying to be very strategic these days. Everything that every time you take your mind to a different avenue, you could potentially waste time or chase the wrong direction. And once you hit a certain point creatively and with some skills, I would say it's very important to be way more strategic than it is do 1,000 things at once, and figuring out like where's the best place to put my focus, and staying disciplined in doing that will have a higher outcome in ROI than being spread 100 different places. So yeah.
Love it.
Good to talk to you.
Well, appreciate you having on, Hunter.
Yeah.
We got to talk again soon, man. Better from a year now. You could be in a different country, different position, different job.
You got to do these every
move.
Yeah. Great.
So, all right, man. Well, take it easy.